Christine Cartwright always considered herself a good observer of details. After 15 years of marriage, she could tell when her husband had a stressful day just by the way he placed his keys on the counter. She noticed when the neighbor's cat had kittens before anyone else on the block, and she definitely noticed when her expensive shampoo and conditioner started disappearing faster than usual. Standing in the shower that Wednesday morning, Christine frowned as she tilted the sleek purple bottle, watching the thick, luxurious liquid barely coat her palm. She had just purchased this bottle 2 weeks ago, and it was already nearly empty. At $58 a bottle, this wasn't just annoying. It was becoming an expensive mystery. Water cascaded down her back as she massaged the fragrant solution into her thick black hair, the familiar scent of lavender and jasmine filling the steamy bathroom. Christine had splurged on this particular brand after reading about its natural ingredients and conditioning properties, a little luxury she allowed herself, despite Dylan's occasional comments about her unnecessary expenses. The shampoo made her hair feel like silk, and at 38, with hints of gray starting to appear at her temples, she felt entitled to a few indulgences. What made the rapidly emptying bottle particularly strange was that Dylan couldn't possibly be using it. Her husband of 15 years had lost most of his hair by his mid-30s, and now at 43, he kept what little remained closely shaved, his gleaming scalp requiring nothing more than regular soap. He'd often joked that at least he saved money on haircuts and hair products, a silver lining to premature baldness. Christine rinsed her hair and stepped out of the shower, wrapping a fluffy white towel around her body and another around her head. As she wiped condensation from the mirror, her reflection stared back with intelligent green eyes, magnified by her glasses, which she'd placed back on immediately after showering, a lifetime habit from being severely nearsighted. Water droplets clung to her skin as she applied moisturizer to her face, her movements deliberate and practiced. Dylan was in the kitchen when she entered, already dressed in his charcoal suit for work, scrolling through his phone while sipping coffee from his favorite mug, the one she'd given him for their 10th anniversary. He barely looked up as she poured herself a cup. "Dylan, have you noticed anything strange about the bathroom supplies lately?" Christine asked casually, stirring a teaspoon of honey into her coffee. His fingers paused momentarily over his phone screen. "Strange how? My shampoo is almost gone already. I just bought it 2 weeks ago, and it should last at least a month." She watched his face carefully as she spoke, noticing the slight tightening around his eyes. "Maybe you've been using more than you realize," he replied, still not meeting her gaze. "Or maybe there's a leak in the bottle." Christine took a slow sip of her coffee. "Maybe." She let the word hang in the air between them. "It's just odd because it's happening with my conditioner too. And you obviously don't use either." Dylan glanced up then, his expression briefly unreadable before he shrugged. "I don't know what to tell you, Chris. Maybe check if the bottles are cracked?" Christine nodded, watching as he quickly drained his coffee cup and stood up. "I should get going. Big client meeting today." He leaned down to kiss her cheek, a perfunctory gesture that had replaced the passionate kisses they once shared. "Don't wait up tonight. I might have to work late again." "Third time this week," Christine observed mildly. "End of quarter rush," he replied, already moving toward the door. "Love you." "Love you too," she said automatically, but he was already gone, the door closing behind him with a decisive click. Christine sat alone at the kitchen table, her coffee growing cold as she stared at the empty chair across from her. They'd fallen into a routine over the years. Comfortable, predictable, safe. She worked from home as a freelance website designer while he climbed the corporate ladder at his marketing firm. No children, by mutual agreement at first, and then it just never seemed to be the right time. Now, at 38, she sometimes wondered if they'd made the right choice. That evening, Christine found herself alone again in their suburban home, the silence broken only by the occasional ping of her laptop. Dylan had texted around 6 to confirm he'd be working late. Again. She'd ordered Thai food for one and was eating it directly from the container while finalizing a client project when her phone rang. "Hey, sis! How's it going?" April's cheerful voice filled the kitchen. Christine smiled despite her melancholy mood. April, Dylan's younger sister by 7 years, had always been more like a sister to Christine than an in-law. Oh, you know, the usual. Working, existing. That bad, huh? April's perception was uncanny. "Where's my brother? Working late again?" "Apparently." Christine tried to keep the edge from her voice. "End of quarter rush, according to him." April's thoughtful pause spoke volumes. "Listen, I'm going to be in your area this weekend. Want to do something? Dylan can join us if he's not too busy being important." Christine laughed. "I'd love that. I need some April therapy." "It's a date then. Saturday brunch." "Perfect." After they hung up, Christine felt slightly better. At least she had something to look forward to. She finished her work around 9, then ran a bath, deciding to pamper herself a little. As she reached for her fancy bath bomb, another gift she'd bought herself, she noticed it too was almost gone. The package of 12 reduced to just 3, though she'd only used 2 herself. A strange feeling settled in her stomach, like a cold stone. First the shampoo, now this. She tried to dismiss her suspicions. Maybe she'd used more than she remembered. Maybe the package had fewer than she thought. But doubt had taken root, and she couldn't shake it. That night, Christine lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling, the other side of the king-sized mattress empty and cold. Dylan had texted again at 11, saying he'd crash at a hotel near the office since it was so late. Logical, reasonable, and yet her thoughts drifted to the shampoo, the bath bombs, the late nights, the distracted kisses. Small things, really. Nothing concrete, nothing worth confronting him about. But together, they formed a picture she wasn't ready to see clearly. Christine turned on her side, pulling the covers tighter around her. Tomorrow, she'd look for more clues. Tomorrow, she'd pay closer attention. Tomorrow, she'd either confirm her suspicions or put them to rest for good. She didn't fall asleep until after midnight, and when she did, her dreams were filled with empty bottles and closed doors, just out of reach no matter how fast she ran. The next morning, Christine woke to the sound of the shower running. Dylan was home, having apparently arrived while she was still asleep. She glanced at the clock. 6:35. Unusually early for him. She lay still, listening to the water running, imagining her husband standing under the spray, washing away. What? Long hours at the office? Or something else? When he emerged from the bathroom 20 minutes later, towel wrapped around his waist, he seemed surprised to see her awake. "Morning," he said, offering a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Sorry if I woke you." "It's fine," Christine replied, watching as he moved around the room, selecting a navy suit from the closet. "How was your hotel?" "Fine. Nothing special." He dressed quickly, his back to her. "Just crashed and got up early to come home and shower before my 8 o'clock meeting." Christine nodded, though he wasn't looking at her to see it. "Will you be late again tonight?" Dylan paused, one arm in his suit jacket. "Actually, no. Should be home at a normal time. Why don't I pick up some steaks? We could grill." "Sounds nice," Christine said, feeling a flash of hope. Maybe she was overthinking everything. Maybe he really had just been busy with work. But as she entered the bathroom after he left, the first thing she noticed was that her shampoo bottle was now completely empty. That evening, Christine made a conscious effort to push her suspicions aside. She prepared a salad and roasted potatoes to accompany the steaks Dylan had promised to bring home. She even opened a bottle of their favorite Cabernet Sauvignon, letting it breathe on the counter. By 6:30, the table was set with their wedding china, something they hadn't used in months. Dylan arrived promptly at 7, paper bag from the butcher's shop in hand, greeting her with a more genuine smile than she'd seen in weeks. "Wow, you went all out," he commented, surveying the dining room. "Thought it would be nice," Christine replied, accepting his kiss on her cheek. "It's been a while since we've had a real dinner together." For 2 hours, they almost felt like their old selves again. Dylan told stories about office politics, Christine shared amusing anecdotes about her latest client, and they finished the bottle of wine between them. No mention of late nights, empty shampoo bottles, or hotel stays. By the time they were clearing the dishes, Christine had nearly convinced herself that her worries were unfounded. Nearly. As Dylan loaded the dishwasher, a chore he only performed when in an exceptionally good mood, his phone buzzed on the counter. Christine wouldn't have paid it any attention except for the way he lunged for it, snatching it up before the screen could fully illuminate. "Work?" she asked casually, wiping down the countertop. "Yeah," he muttered, fingers flying over the screen. "Just a quick question about tomorrow's presentation." Christine nodded, saying nothing more as she finished cleaning. But the seed of doubt that had been planted continued to grow. Later that night, Christine awoke to darkness. The digital clock on her nightstand read 2:17 in glowing red numbers. Dylan's soft snores came from beside her, his back turned toward her side of the bed. Unable to fall back asleep, she slipped out from under the covers and padded quietly to the kitchen for a glass of water. As she passed through the living room, she noticed Dylan's suit jacket draped over the arm of the sofa, his phone peeking out from the inner pocket. Christine hesitated, her throat suddenly dry for reasons unrelated to thirst. She'd never been the type to snoop, had always respected Dylan's privacy. They trusted each other, or at least they were supposed to. But the empty shampoo bottle, the late nights, the way he'd grabbed his phone earlier. Before she could second-guess herself, Christine reached for the device. The screen lit up at her touch, revealing a lock screen photo of the two of them from their vacation to Hawaii 3 years ago. Happy, sun-kissed faces smiled back at her. She tried her birthday as the passcode, the same one he'd used for years, but the phone remained locked. She tried their anniversary date. Nothing. Frowning, she pressed her thumb against the fingerprint scanner, a method that had always worked before when she needed to use his phone. Access denied. Christine stared at the screen in disbelief. Dylan had removed her fingerprint from his phone's security settings. When? Why? She returned the phone exactly as she'd found it and retreated to the kitchen, her hands shaking slightly as she filled a glass with water from the refrigerator dispenser. The cold liquid did nothing to dispel the lump forming in her throat. In 15 years of marriage, they'd always had an open phone policy. Not that they regularly went through each other's devices, but there had never been secrets, never been locks the other couldn't open. Until now. The next morning, Christine awoke to an empty bed and a text message. Had to head in early. Dinner at 7? I'll pick up Italian. Normal, ordinary, as if nothing had changed, but everything had changed. She could feel it in the growing hollow in her chest, in the suspicions she could no longer ignore. She needed proof, either to confirm her fears or, hopefully, to put them to rest. After a shower, during which she noted with grim satisfaction that Dylan had replaced her empty shampoo bottle with a new one, Christine dressed carefully in a flattering blouse and jeans, applied light makeup, and ran a straightener through her dark hair. She had a plan forming, though each step of it made her stomach clench with anxiety. At the upscale beauty supply store in the mall, Christine purchased an identical bottle of her shampoo and one of conditioner. The sales associate recognized her. "Back so soon? Didn't you just buy these 2 weeks ago?" Christine forced a smile. "They're just so good. I'm going through them faster than expected. Actually, I'm thinking of getting some for my sister as a gift. Do you have any recommendations for similar products I could try?" As the associate chatted enthusiastically about various luxury hair care lines, Christine nodded attentively while her mind raced. Someone else was using her products. Someone Dylan was bringing into their home. After leaving the store, Christine drove to the electronics shop 3 storefronts down. 20 minutes and $237 later, she walked out with a small security camera disguised as a decorative shelf ornament, designed to blend perfectly with the minimalist aesthetic of their master bathroom. Her heart pounded as she installed the device that afternoon, positioning it on the shelf across from the shower, angled perfectly to capture anyone entering or exiting. The camera connected to an app on her phone, which would notify her of any movement detected in the bathroom when activated. "This is insane," she whispered to herself as she tested the camera's viewing angle. "I'm spying on my own husband." But she couldn't stop now. She needed to know. Christine spent the rest of the day alternating between work projects and checking the new bottle of shampoo she'd placed in the shower. She'd marked the level with a tiny dot of clear nail polish on the outside of the bottle, invisible unless you were looking for it, but unmistakable to her examining eye. By the time Dylan arrived home with takeout from their favorite Italian restaurant, she had composed herself enough to greet him with a convincing smile. They ate pasta at the kitchen island, making small talk about their days. If Dylan noticed anything unusual about her behavior, he didn't comment. "Any plans this weekend?" he asked casually, twirling linguine around his fork. Christine took a sip of water before answering. "Actually, yes. April's coming by for brunch on Saturday. You're welcome to join us if you're not busy." Dylan nodded. "I should be able to make it. Where are you meeting?" "That new place on Maple Street. Supposed to have amazing eggs Benedict." "Sounds good. What time?" 11. The conversation shifted to other topics, but Christine's mind remained fixed on Saturday. Not because of brunch with April, but because of what she planned to do afterward. If her suspicions were correct, Dylan would find some excuse to be out of the house for several hours on Saturday afternoon. He always did, claiming he needed to go to the gym or run errands. And this time, she would know exactly what happened in their home while she was gone. Friday passed in a blur of client calls and nervous anticipation. Dylan came home at his usual time, and they watched a movie together on the couch, her head resting on his shoulder like old times. He smelled of his familiar cologne, and when his arm wrapped around her, Christine almost broke down and confronted him then and there. But she held back. Without proof, it would be his word against her suspicions, and she needed to be certain. Saturday morning arrived bright and clear. Christine woke before Dylan and slipped quietly from bed to prepare coffee. While waiting for the pot to brew, she checked her phone. No notifications from the bathroom camera. Either no one had used that shower since she'd installed it, or Dylan had discovered the device and disabled it. The latter thought sent a chill through her. But when Dylan shuffled into the kitchen in his pajama pants, rubbing sleep from his eyes, his behavior seemed perfectly normal. He accepted the mug of coffee she offered with a sleepy "thanks" and joined her at the table. "Still on for brunch?" he asked between sips. "Absolutely. April texted last night to confirm." Dylan nodded, scrolling through news headlines on his tablet. "I might not stay the whole time. Thought I'd hit the gym afterward. Maybe stop by the office to finish up some paperwork." Christine kept her expression neutral, even as her heart rate accelerated. "On a Saturday? You've been working so much lately." He shrugged. "End of quarter crunch. It'll calm down soon, I promise." "Sure," she replied, rising to rinse her empty mug in the sink. Her back to him, she allowed herself a moment of raw emotion, her eyes closing briefly against the pain of his casual lies. Then she straightened her shoulders and turned around with a smile. "I should start getting ready. April always arrives early." Brunch with April was a welcome distraction. Her sister-in-law had always been perceptive, but today, Christine was grateful that April dominated the conversation with stories about her job as an elementary school principal. Dylan, as predicted, begged off after an hour, kissing Christine's cheek and promising to see her at home later. "Is everything okay?" April asked the moment he was out of earshot. "You seem distracted." Christine toyed with her napkin. "Everything's fine, just busy with work." April's skeptical expression said she didn't believe a word of it, but she didn't press further. "Well, if you need to talk, I'm here. No matter what." Those words, "no matter what," nearly broke Christine's composure. Instead, she changed the subject, asking about April's latest dating disaster, knowing it would launch her into another animated story. 2 hours later, Christine said goodbye to April with a tight hug, promising to call her soon. Then, instead of heading home as she normally would, she drove to a coffee shop 3 blocks from their house, ordered a large Americano, and opened her laptop as if settling into work. In reality, she was watching the security camera feed on her phone, hidden partially behind her computer screen. For over an hour, nothing happened. The bathroom remained empty, the house quiet. Christine was beginning to think she had been wrong after all when a notification pinged. Motion detected. Her fingers trembled as she tapped the alert, and the live feed filled her screen. Someone was entering the bathroom. Not Dylan, but a woman. Young, blonde, stunning. She moved with the confidence of someone familiar with the space, setting a designer purse on the counter before beginning to undress. Christine watched, frozen, as the stranger, who couldn't be more than 28 or 29, stepped into the shower and reached directly for Christine's new bottles of shampoo and conditioner. The betrayal, now confirmed beyond any doubt, hit Christine like a physical blow. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The coffee shop around her faded to background noise as she stared at the screen, watching a complete stranger use her shower, her expensive products, moving through her home as if she belonged there. The woman finished her shower, wrapped herself in one of their fluffy towels, Christine's towel, and left the bathroom, presumably heading to the bedroom. Christine couldn't bear to watch anymore. She closed the app with shaking fingers, packed up her laptop, and sat in her car for 20 minutes, trying to calm her racing heart enough to drive. She had her answer now. The mystery of the disappearing shampoo had been solved in the worst possible way. Christine drove aimlessly for nearly an hour, her vision occasionally blurring with unshed tears. She refused to cry. Not yet. Crying meant acceptance, and she wasn't ready to accept that her 15-year marriage had been reduced to secret bathroom cameras and stolen shampoo. Eventually, she found herself parked at a scenic overlook outside of town, the same spot where Dylan had proposed all those years ago. The irony wasn't lost on her. She sat on the hood of her car, watching the sun begin its descent toward the horizon, and finally allowed herself to think clearly about what she had seen. The woman was beautiful, tall, blonde, probably a decade younger than Christine. The kind of woman who turned heads when she walked into a room. The kind of woman Dylan would notice. Christine's phone buzzed with a text from her husband. "Heading home now. Want me to pick up anything for dinner?" So casual, so normal, as if there wasn't currently a stranger in their home using their shower, probably lying in their bed. The bed where Christine had slept every night for 15 years, where she and Dylan had made love, had whispered dreams to each other in the darkness. She didn't respond to the text. Instead, she opened the security camera app again, watching as the blonde woman, now dressed in form-fitting jeans and a silky blouse, applied makeup at Christine's vanity. She was using Christine's makeup brushes, her foundation, her mascara. The violation was breathtaking in its thoroughness. A notification from her doorbell camera popped up. Dylan was home. Christine watched as he entered the house, calling out something she couldn't hear. Moments later, he appeared in the bathroom doorway behind the blonde woman, wrapping his arms around her waist and kissing her neck as she smiled at him through the mirror. Christine closed the app, suddenly feeling nauseous. She needed a plan. Confronting them now, while she was emotional and they were together, would only end in chaos. And despite the rage simmering beneath her skin, Christine had always prided herself on her self-control. This situation called for something more calculated than a dramatic confrontation. By the time Christine pulled into April's driveway 40 minutes later, she had composed herself enough to explain the situation without breaking down. April answered the door in sweatpants, her expression shifting from surprise to concern as she took in Christine's pale face. "I need to stay here tonight," Christine said simply, "and I need your help." Inside, seated at April's kitchen counter with a glass of whiskey neither of them normally drank, Christine showed her sister-in-law the video footage. April's face cycled through shock, disgust, and finally a cold anger that Christine had never seen before. That Absolute bastard, April whispered, her knuckles white around her own glass. In your house. In your bed. She looked up, eyes flashing. Tell me what you need. Anything. I need somewhere to stay this weekend, and I need to go shopping tomorrow. Christine's voice was steadier than she expected. I have a plan. April didn't ask questions, simply nodded, and showed Christine to the guest room. As Christine lay in the unfamiliar bed that night, her phone buzzed repeatedly with texts and calls from Dylan, each more concerned than the last. Where are you? Are you okay? Please call me when you get this. Chris, I'm getting worried. Please let me know you're safe. She sent a single text in response. Staying at a friend's. Need some space. We'll call tomorrow. His reply came instantly. Is everything okay? Did something happen? The audacity almost made her laugh. Did something happen? Only the complete destruction of their marriage, their home, their life together. Only the revelation that the man she had loved and trusted for 15 years had been bringing another woman into their bed. Everything's fine, she wrote back. Just needed a break. Good night. She turned off her phone before he could respond again. Sunday morning found Christine and April at a beauty supply store, examining the selection of hair products with critical eyes. Are you sure about this? April asked, picking up a box of platinum blonde hair dye. It seems extreme. I'm sure, Christine replied, adding a bottle of industrial-strength hair removal cream to their basket. He brought her into our home, used her to humiliate me, called me a fool in my own house. Her voice remained calm, but April recognized the dangerous glint in her eyes. I just don't want you to do something you'll regret, April said carefully. Christine gave her a sideways glance. The only thing I regret is not realizing sooner what was happening right under my nose. She picked up a bottle of color-stripping solution and added it to their growing collection. Besides, I'm not hurting anyone. I'm just improving my shampoo. By Sunday afternoon, Christine had created her special concoction, carefully mixing the hair removal cream and color stripper into her expensive shampoo and conditioner bottles, making sure to preserve enough of the original product to maintain its distinctive scent and texture. The bathroom in April's guest room now smelled like a hair salon, but the resulting mixture looked perfectly normal in the bottles. What now? April asked as they sealed the containers. Now we wait. Christine checked her phone, which she had finally turned back on to find 17 missed calls and over 30 text messages from Dylan. The most recent one, sent an hour ago, informed her that he would be working late tonight and would see her tomorrow. She knew exactly what that meant. He was giving the blonde woman one more night in their bed before Christine returned home. Perfect. On Monday morning, Christine hugged April goodbye, promising to call with updates. Are you sure you don't want me to come with you? April asked, concern evident in her voice. I'm sure. This is something I need to do alone. Christine loaded her overnight bag into her car and checked her appearance in the rearview mirror. Despite everything, she looked surprisingly good. Her dark hair shining, green eyes clear behind her glasses, chin held high. Whatever happened next, she would face it with dignity. The house was empty when she arrived home, Dylan having already left for work. Christine moved through the rooms with new eyes, noticing small changes that had previously escaped her attention. A different arrangement of pillows on the bed, a wine glass in the dishwasher that wasn't from their set, a faint, unfamiliar perfume lingering in the air. She unpacked her overnight bag and then methodically stripped the bed, stuffing the sheets into the washing machine with twice the normal amount of detergent. She scrubbed the shower, replaced her makeup brushes with new ones, and cleaned every surface the blonde woman might have touched. By noon, the house was spotless, with no trace of the intruder remaining, except for the improved shampoo and conditioner bottles, which Christine carefully returned to their place in the shower caddy. Her phone rang just after 1 o'clock. Dylan. You're home, he said when she answered, his voice a mixture of relief and wariness. Yes, she kept her response neutral, neither cold nor welcoming. I've been worried sick, Chris. Where were you all weekend? I told you, I needed some space. I stayed with a friend. A pause. Which friend? You could have told me where you were going. Christine bit back a harsh laugh. The hypocrisy was staggering. I didn't realize I needed permission to have a weekend to myself. That's not what I meant, Dylan backpedaled quickly. I was just concerned. You've never disappeared like that before. People change, Christine replied evenly. Are you coming home for dinner tonight? The abrupt change of subject seemed to throw him. Yes. I should be home by 6. Good. I'll cook something. After hanging up, Christine sent a text to April. Operation Shampoo is a go. He'll be home tonight, but I'm guessing she'll visit while I'm at my dentist appointment tomorrow afternoon. April's response came quickly. Be careful, and call me if you need anything. The evening with Dylan was an exercise in self-control. Christine prepared a simple meal of grilled chicken and vegetables, responding to his cautious conversation with pleasant but non-committal answers. If he noticed anything different about her demeanor, he didn't mention it. He seemed relieved that she wasn't questioning his weekend activities or her own absence, taking her apparent forgiveness at face value. I missed you, he said, as they cleared the dinner dishes, attempting to pull her into an embrace. Christine allowed a brief hug before stepping away. I have a headache. Think I'll turn in early tonight. Disappointment flashed across his face, but he nodded. Of course. Get some rest. In bed, Christine lay with her back to him, listening to his breathing slowly, even out into sleep. When she was certain he wouldn't wake, she carefully reached for his phone on the nightstand. As expected, it was still locked, her fingerprint no longer recognized, but now she had a different approach. Gently lifting his hand, she pressed his thumb against the sensor. The phone unlocked instantly, revealing a home screen with several notifications, mostly work emails and news alerts. Christine navigated to his messaging app, looking for conversations with unknown numbers or suspicious contact names. She found what she was looking for under a contact labeled BM Photography, clearly a thinly veiled reference to Brittany McAllister. The most recent exchange had been that morning. Dylan, she's back home. Not sure what's going on, but she seems fine. Almost too fine. Brittany, did she say where she was all weekend? Dylan, just with a friend. Didn't push it. Brittany, smart. Are we still on for tomorrow? Dylan, yes. She has a dentist appointment at 2. Should be gone for at least an hour. Brittany, perfect. Miss you already. Last night was amazing. Dylan, it was. See you tomorrow, beautiful. Christine's stomach churned, but she forced herself to keep reading, scrolling up through days of messages, intimate exchanges, explicit photos, plans for their meetings. She found the conversation from the day she had discovered the shampoo issue. Brittany, so the dummy finally noticed her fancy shampoo disappearing? Dylan, yeah, mentioned it this morning. Told her maybe there was a leak in the bottle, Lol. Brittany, well, it is amazing shampoo. My hair has never looked better. Worth every penny she paid. The casual cruelty took Christine's breath away. They weren't just having an affair. They were laughing at her, mocking her in her own home, using her things, sleeping in her bed. And all the while, Dylan had been playing the role of devoted husband, kissing her cheek each morning, asking about her day, sleeping beside her at night after spending the afternoon with his mistress. Carefully, Christine placed the phone back exactly as she had found it and returned to her side of the bed. Sleep wouldn't come, but that was fine. She had confirmation now. And tomorrow, while she pretended to be at a dentist appointment, Brittany McAllister would receive a surprise that would make her regret ever touching Christine's shampoo. The next day unfolded according to plan. Christine left the house at 1:45, telling Dylan she had a 2 o'clock dental cleaning. Instead of driving to the dentist, however, she parked at a coffee shop with a clear view of their street, watching through her car window as a sleek silver convertible pulled into their driveway at precisely 2:15. Brittany stepped out, sunglasses perched on her perfect blonde hair, a small overnight bag in hand. She let herself in with a key, a key Dylan must have given her, and disappeared inside. Christine waited, sipping her coffee as the minutes ticked by, imagining the scene playing out in her bathroom, the shower turning on, the expensive shampoo being poured into a palm, the luxurious lather, the blissful ignorance. At 3:30, Christine drove home, timing her arrival for when Dylan would expect her back from the dentist. She parked in the driveway, noting with satisfaction that the silver convertible was gone. Perfect timing. Dylan was in the kitchen when she entered, seemingly engrossed in his laptop. "How was the dentist?" he asked without looking up. "Fine," Christine replied, hanging her purse on the hook by the door. "The usual cleaning. No cavities." "Good, good," he mumbled, eyes still fixed on his screen. Christine moved through the house with casual purpose, noting the subtle signs of Brittany's visit. A damp towel hung slightly askew, the faint scent of unfamiliar perfume. In the bathroom, she checked the shampoo and conditioner bottles. Both had been used, the levels noticeably lower than when she had left. The trap was sprung. Now all she had to do was wait for the results. The effects of Christine's special shampoo formula didn't take long to manifest. The very next morning, while Christine was preparing breakfast, her phone chimed with a notification from the bathroom security camera. She had almost forgotten she'd left it running. Excusing herself to the bedroom, she checked the footage to find Dylan on the phone, his voice hushed but clearly agitated. "What do you mean, emergency? Can't you just wear a hat?" A pause as he listened. "That bad? Are you sure it's not just, I don't know, an allergic reaction or something?" Another pause. Okay. I'll come over, but I have to make up some excuse to Christine. Give me 30 minutes. Christine quickly closed the app and returned to the kitchen, arranging her features into a mask of domestic tranquility just as Dylan entered, his expression tense. "Hey, something came up at work. One of the junior associates messed up some client files and I need to go sort it out." "On a Wednesday morning?" Christine raised an eyebrow, the picture of innocent confusion. "Can't it wait until after breakfast?" "Unfortunately not." He was already grabbing his keys from the counter. "It's time sensitive. Not sure how long it'll take. I'll text you." "Of course." She nodded, watching him rush out the door without even a perfunctory kiss goodbye. Once his car pulled away, Christine allowed herself a small, satisfied smile. Phase 1 of her plan was complete. Later that afternoon, while working on a website design for a client, Christine received a text from April. "Can you talk? It's important." Christine stepped away from her computer and called her sister-in-law immediately. "You will never believe who I just saw at Meridian Medical Plaza," April said without preamble when she answered. "Your husband's little girlfriend, coming out of Dr. Morris's dermatology office, wearing the biggest hat I've ever seen, and enormous sunglasses. Even with all that, I could tell she was crying." Christine fought to keep her voice neutral. "Really? That's interesting." "Christine." April's tone was knowing. "What exactly did you put in that shampoo?" "Just a little hair color remover and some depilatory cream," Christine replied innocently. "Nothing dangerous." "Well, whatever it was, it clearly worked." She looked absolutely devastated. April paused. "Are you going to confront Dylan now?" "Not yet," Christine said, her plan crystallizing further with each development. "I need one more piece of evidence first." That evening, Dylan came home late, his expression haggard. He claimed to have spent the day resolving the work crisis, but the faint scent of a hospital's antiseptic soap clung to his skin. He had clearly accompanied Brittany to her dermatology appointment. "Tough day?" Christine asked mildly, setting a plate of dinner in front of him. "You have no idea," he sighed, rubbing his temples. "Sometimes I think I'm surrounded by incompetence." Christine hummed noncommittally, watching him push food around his plate. "Anyone I know?" Dylan's head snapped up, eyes narrowing slightly before his expression smoothed. "No, just some junior staff. Not worth discussing." The next few days passed in a strange pantomime of normalcy. Dylan was distant, constantly checking his phone when he thought Christine wasn't looking. She pretended not to notice, going about her routine with placid efficiency while monitoring the security footage for any sign of Brittany's return. On Saturday morning, Christine announced casually over coffee, "April invited me to spend the weekend at her lake house. Girls' getaway. I thought I'd go. We haven't had sister time in ages." Dylan's response was a touch too enthusiastic. "That sounds great. You deserve a break. When are you leaving?" "After lunch," Christine replied, noting how quickly he reached for his phone, no doubt to text Brittany the good news. "I'll be back Sunday evening." "Perfect," Dylan smiled, the first genuine smile she'd seen from him in days. "I've got some work to catch up on anyway." "Work. Right." Christine packed an overnight bag and kissed Dylan goodbye at 1 o'clock, driving directly to April's house. Not her lake house, which didn't exist, but her suburban home 15 minutes away. By 2:30, they had set up a command center of sorts in April's living room. Both women hunched over Christine's laptop as they monitored the bathroom camera feed. "Are you sure you want to watch this?" April asked, concern etching her features. "It might be difficult." "I need to see," Christine replied firmly. "I need to know exactly what's been happening in my house." They didn't have to wait long. At 3:15, the camera captured Dylan leading Brittany into the master bathroom. Her appearance made both women gasp. The formerly luscious blonde hair was now a patchy disaster, with large sections significantly thinner than others, and the color a sickly combination of brassy orange and greenish blonde. "Oh my God!" April breathed. "Your concoction did that?" Christine nodded, a mixture of vindication and faint horror washing over her. She hadn't expected quite such dramatic results. On screen, Brittany was clearly distraught, her voice rising as she gestured wildly at her ruined hair. "The dermatologist said it was some kind of chemical burn. Do you know how much the treatments are costing me? My agency has already put me on hiatus. I had to cancel 3 shoots this week." Dylan tried to calm her, his hands on her shoulders. "Baby, I'm so sorry. We'll figure this out. Maybe Christine found out somehow and tampered with—" "Don't you dare blame this on me." Brittany jerked away from his touch. "I've been using that shampoo for months without any problems. This is your fault. You should have checked it or something. You know how important my hair is for my career." "Your career?" Dylan's voice took on an edge. "What about my marriage? If Christine finds out about us—" "Oh, please?" Brittany cut him off with a harsh laugh. "Like you care about your marriage. You've been telling me for months how unhappy you are, how Christine doesn't understand you, how we're going to be together once you figure out the finances of the divorce." Christine felt as though she'd been slapped. Divorce? He had been planning to divorce her? And blaming her for their marital problems to his mistress? On the screen, Dylan was backpedaling. "That's not what I meant. Of course I care about my marriage. It's just complicated right now." "Complicated," Brittany repeated flatly. "Well, let me uncomplicate things for you. I'm not setting foot in this house again until you figure out what happened to my hair. I have a consultation with a specialist in New York on Monday. It's going to cost $5,000, which you're paying for, by the way." "5,000? Dylan's voice rose in alarm. "Brittany, be reasonable." "Reasonable?" Her voice became shrill. "Look at me, Dylan. I'm a model. Or I was, until your wife's toxic shampoo destroyed my hair. The least you can do is pay for the treatments." April glanced at Christine, who sat stone-faced as she watched the argument unfold. "You okay?" she whispered. Christine nodded once, not trusting herself to speak. On screen, the argument continued to escalate until Brittany stormed out of the bathroom, Dylan following close behind, both disappearing from the camera's view. "Should we keep watching?" April asked after a moment of silence. "No," Christine finally said, closing the laptop. "I've seen enough." That evening, while Dylan believed she was enjoying a carefree weekend at a lake house, Christine sat at April's dining table, methodically sorting through 15 years of financial records she had secretly downloaded from their shared cloud storage before leaving home. Credit card statements, bank accounts, investment portfolios. She examined everything with the detached precision of an auditor, making notes and highlighting discrepancies. "What exactly are you looking for?" April asked, setting a cup of tea beside her. "Ammunition," Christine replied without looking up, "and insurance." See, Kim, by Sunday morning, she had compiled a comprehensive financial history of their marriage, including several concerning discoveries. A separate checking account Dylan had opened 6 months ago, into which he had been transferring small amounts regularly. Suspicious charges on his personal credit card at high-end restaurants and hotels on days he claimed to be working late. And most damning of all, recent searches in his browser history for divorce laws in our state and hidden assets during divorce. "That bastard was planning to leave you," April said, looking over Christine's findings, "and probably trying to hide money before filing." "Yes," Christine agreed, her voice remarkably steady. "But he made a crucial mistake." "What's that?" "He underestimated me." Christine gathered the documents into a neat folder. "He forgot that I'm the one who organized our finances for 15 years. I know where every penny is." April studied her sister-in-law's composed face. "What are you going to do now?" "Now," Christine smiled, though the expression didn't reach her eyes. "Now I go home and have a long-overdue conversation with my husband." When Christine arrived home Sunday evening, rolling her overnight bag through the front door with deliberate noise, she found Dylan in the living room watching football, an empty pizza box on the coffee table. He looked up with practiced casualness. "Hey, how was the lake house?" "There is no lake house," Christine replied calmly, setting her purse down. "April doesn't have a lake house. Never has." Dylan's expression faltered. "What? Then where were you?" "At April's regular house, watching you and your girlfriend argue about her ruined hair through my bathroom security camera." The color drained from Dylan's face so quickly that under different circumstances, Christine might have been concerned for his health. He opened his mouth, closed it, then opened it again. No words emerging. "Don't bother denying it," Christine continued in the same calm voice, moving to sit in the armchair across from him. "I have hours of footage. Very educational viewing. I particularly enjoyed the part where Brittany mentioned you've been planning to divorce me." "Christine, I can explain." "Can you? Can you explain why you've been bringing another woman into our home for months? Why you gave her a key to our house? Why you let her use my things, sleep in my bed, shower in my bathroom?" Dylan ran a hand over his head, a nervous gesture she'd seen countless times during their marriage. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this. I never meant to hurt you. And yet, here we are." Christine crossed her legs, smoothing her skirt with steady hands. "Here's what's going to happen now, Dylan. I've compiled a complete record of our finances, including your pathetic attempts to hide money in that new checking account. I've documented every hotel charge, every late night at the office, and every visit Brittany made to our home. I've saved all the security footage to a cloud account that only I can access." Dylan's expression shifted from shock to wariness. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that tomorrow morning I'll be calling Robert Jenkins. You remember him? My college friend who became a divorce attorney? We're going to have a very interesting conversation about marital assets and infidelity documentation. And then I'm going to file for divorce." "Wait, Christine, please, we can work this out." Dylan leaned forward, desperation creeping into his voice. "It was a mistake. Brittany means nothing to me. It was just what? A 15-year itch? A midlife crisis? Does it matter?" Christine's composure finally cracked, pain flashing across her face. "You brought her into our home, Dylan. You let her use my things. You laughed with her about me being too stupid to notice. You planned to leave me while pretending everything was fine. What kind of person does that?" Dylan had no answer, his shoulders slumping in defeat. "I've already packed some of your clothes," Christine continued, her professional tone returning. "You'll be staying at a hotel tonight. I expect you to be gone when I wake up tomorrow. My lawyer will contact you about arrangements for collecting the rest of your belongings. You're throwing me out? Just like that? Dylan's voice rose in disbelief. After 15 years? No, Dylan. You threw us away just like that, the moment you gave another woman a key to our home. Christine stood, signaling the end of the conversation. By the way, you might want to let Brittany know that the hair loss is likely to get worse before it gets better. The depilatory cream I mixed into the shampoo can continue working for several days. Some effects might be permanent. Dylan's jaw dropped. You did that to her hair on purpose. Consider it poetic justice. She liked my shampoo so much, I simply made her a special blend. Christine picked up her purse and headed toward the bedroom. Your suitcase is by the front door. I suggest you use it. That night, Christine slept alone in the king-sized bed she had shared with Dylan for 15 years. Instead of the emptiness she had expected to feel, a strange sense of peace settled over her. The worst had happened. Her marriage was over, her trust shattered. And yet, she had survived. Not only survived, but reclaimed her power in a situation where she had been made to feel powerless. As she drifted toward sleep, her phone chimed with a text from April. How did it go? Are you okay? Christine typed back. He's gone. I'm better than okay. I'm free. And for the first time in months, she slept deeply and dreamlessly, unburdened by suspicion or doubt or the weight of lies. Whatever came next would be entirely her choice. 1 year later, Christine stood in the bright, airy kitchen of her new bakery. Sweet beginnings, carefully piping delicate rosettes onto a 3-tiered wedding cake. Early morning sunlight streamed through the large front windows, casting a golden glow over the pristine work surfaces. The scent of vanilla and freshly baked pastries filled the air, mingling with the rich aroma of brewing coffee from the small cafe area at the front of the shop. This space, her space, still felt like a dream sometimes. After the divorce was finalized 6 months ago, Christine had used her portion of the proceeds from selling their house to make 2 investments: a charming 2-bedroom cottage on the quieter side of town, and this bakery, which had quickly gained a reputation for having the best custom cakes and pastries within 50 miles. That looks amazing, said Megan, the 23-year-old assistant Christine had hired 3 months ago when the business had grown too busy for her to manage alone. Mrs. Edwards is going to love it. Christine stepped back to examine her work, adjusting her glasses as she scrutinized the delicate sugar flowers adorning the cake's tiers. I think it needs a bit more shimmer on these petals, she murmured, reaching for the edible pearl dust. The bell above the shop door chimed, and Megan glanced at her watch. That's odd. We don't open for another 30 minutes. It's probably April, Christine replied without looking up from her work. She said she might stop by this morning. But it wasn't April who appeared in the kitchen doorway a moment later. It was Brittany McAllister. Christine's hands froze mid-motion, the pastry bag suspended above the cake as she stared at the woman who had once used her shampoo, slept in her bed, and contributed to the end of her marriage. Brittany looked markedly different from the stunning model in the security footage. Her once luxurious blonde hair was now cut in a severe chin-length bob, clearly a strategic choice to deal with the uneven regrowth, and she appeared thinner, her designer clothes hanging somewhat loosely on her frame. "Hello, Christine," Brittany said, her voice quieter than Christine remembered. "Your assistant let me in. I hope that's okay." Christine set down the pastry bag carefully, wiped her hands on her apron, and turned to Megan. "Would you mind watching the front for a few minutes? And make sure Mrs. Edwards's cake delivery is prepared for noon." Megan nodded, glancing curiously between the 2 women before retreating to the front of the shop. "What are you doing here?" Christine asked once they were alone, her tone neither hostile nor welcoming. Simply direct. Brittany shifted uncomfortably, tucking a strand of her shortened hair behind her ear. "I wanted to see you in person. To apologize." "Apologize," Christine repeated flatly. "It's been a year." "I know." Brittany's gaze dropped to the floor. "It took me a long time to work up the courage and to fully understand what I'd done." Christine leaned against the counter, crossing her arms, And what exactly do you think you did, Brittany? I destroyed a marriage. I disrespected your home, your privacy. I was selfish and cruel. Brittany looked up, meeting Christine's eyes directly. There's no excuse for my behavior. But I want you to know that I've been in therapy for the past 8 months, trying to understand why I did what I did, why I was capable of hurting someone I didn't even know. Christine studied the woman before her, searching for signs of insincerity or manipulation, but finding none. There was a rawness to Brittany now, a vulnerability that hadn't existed in the confident, entitled model who had once called Christine a dummy in text messages to Dylan. And did you? Understand, I mean. Brittany nodded slowly. Some of it. I was raised to value appearance above everything else. My worth was always tied to how I looked, how men responded to me. I chased validation in destructive ways. She gestured to her hair with a rueful smile. Losing my hair, my identity, really, forced me to confront who I was beneath the surface. It wasn't pretty, what I found there. Despite herself, Christine felt a flicker of empathy. She remembered the devastation in Brittany's voice when she'd realized her modeling career was in jeopardy. At the time, it had seemed like justice. Now, with a year's distance and perspective, it seemed more like a young woman facing the consequences of her choices for perhaps the first time. What happened with your career? Christine asked, surprising herself with the question. It's over, Brittany replied simply. At least the modeling part. I lost all my contracts after the hair incident. Even when it started growing back, it wasn't the same. I wasn't the same. She paused. I'm working in fashion photography now, behind the camera instead of in front of it. It's actually more fulfilling than modeling ever was. Christine nodded, unsure what to say. Part of her wanted to hold on to the anger, to remind Brittany of every hurtful text, every invasion of privacy, every moment of betrayal. But she recognized, with some surprise, that the rage that had once consumed her had largely burned itself out, leaving behind a calm wisdom she hadn't possessed before. And Dylan? She asked finally. Are you still together? Brittany let out a short, humorless laugh. No, that ended about 2 weeks after you kicked him out, when I realized he was expecting me to take care of him emotionally while he was going through the divorce. He was, she searched for the words, weaker than I thought, always looking for someone to validate him, to take care of his needs. I think that's why he needed both of us. You for stability, me for excitement. Once he couldn't have both, neither of us was enough. The assessment was surprisingly insightful, Christine thought. It matched her own realizations about her ex-husband in the months following their separation. I saw him about a month ago, actually, Brittany continued, at a coffee shop downtown. He didn't see me. He was with some redhead, touching her hand across the table, giving her that same intense, "You're the only woman in the world" look he used to give me. Some people never change. Christine felt a strange sense of closure hearing this confirmation of what she'd already suspected, that Dylan's infidelity hadn't been about her shortcomings, but about his own. Why now? Christine asked, returning to Brittany's initial purpose. Why come apologize after all this time? Part of my therapy, Brittany admitted, making amends where possible. But also, she glanced around the bakery kitchen, I heard about your success. How you've built this amazing business from nothing. I wanted to see it, to see that something good came out of all that pain. Christine felt an unexpected warmth spread through her chest. Her bakery was indeed something good, something she never would have pursued if her marriage had continued. In a strange way, the betrayal that had seemed like the end of her world had actually been the beginning of a better one. Would you like some coffee? Christine found herself asking. I just made a fresh pot. Brittany looked surprised, then grateful. I'd like that. Yes. 20 minutes later, April pushed open the door to Sweet Beginnings, instantly spotting Christine and Brittany sitting at a small table in the corner of the cafe area, deep in conversation. She stopped short, blinking in disbelief at the sight of her former sister-in-law sharing coffee with the woman who had helped destroy her marriage. "What in the world?" April muttered under her breath as she approached the table. Christine looked up, a smile spreading across her face. "April! Perfect timing. You remember Brittany, I'm sure." April's expression was priceless, a mixture of confusion, protectiveness, and barely contained curiosity. "Vividly," she replied dryly, "though I remember her with more hair." Brittany winced, but nodded in acknowledgement. "I deserved that." Christine gestured to an empty chair. "Join us?" Brittany was just about to leave, "but I wanted to ask you something." Still looking puzzled, April sat down as Brittany gathered her purse and stood. "Thank you for the coffee, Christine. And for listening. It means more than you know." "Closure works both ways," Christine replied simply. "Take care of yourself, Brittany." After Brittany had left, April turned to Christine with wide eyes. "Okay, what just happened? Why were you having coffee with the blonde homewrecker? Please tell me this isn't some weird forgiveness thing where you're going to invite her and my idiot brother to Thanksgiving dinner." Christine laughed, the sound light and genuine. "Nothing that dramatic." She came to apologize. I decided to hear her out. She shrugged. "It was healing, in a way. For both of us, I think." April shook her head in amazement. "You're a better person than I am." I would have poured that coffee over her head. "A year ago, I might have," Christine admitted. "But I've realized something important, April. Holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. I'm happy now. Genuinely happy. Why would I want to carry around all that bitterness?" April studied her for a moment, then smiled softly. "You really are happy, aren't you? It shows. You're glowing in a way you never did when you were with Dylan." "I am," Christine confirmed, glancing around her bakery with pride. "Which brings me to what I wanted to ask you. Remember how you mentioned your school's fundraiser needs a cake for their silent auction? Don't tell me you're offering to make one?" "Christine, those usually go for at least $500, and with your prices now—" "I want to donate it," Christine said firmly. "Something spectacular that will raise lots of money for the kids. Maybe a three-dimensional storybook design? I've been wanting to try that technique." April's eyes welled with tears. "You amazing woman. The kids would absolutely love that. Consider it my way of giving back some of the support you've shown me this past year. I wouldn't have made it through without you, April." Speaking of support," April said, wiping her eyes and regaining her composure, "have you thought more about opening that second location downtown? The real estate agent called me yesterday. Said the owner of that corner space is getting anxious to sell." Christine had been considering expanding her business for months. The downtown location would be perfect. More foot traffic, proximity to the business district, and the charming historic building had exactly the aesthetic she wanted for her brand. "I'm meeting with the bank tomorrow," she admitted. "The loan should be approved by next week. And then—" she spread her hands in a gesture of excited anticipation. "Sweet Beginnings is going to take over the world," April finished for her, grinning, or at least the greater metropolitan area. Later that evening, after closing the shop and completing the final preparations for the next morning's orders, Christine drove home to her cottage. The small house welcomed her with warm light spilling from the windows. She'd installed smart lighting that turned on automatically at sunset, ensuring she never came home to darkness. As she unlocked the front door, the familiar scent of home enveloped her. Cinnamon and vanilla that seemed to permanently infuse the air, thanks to her constant baking experiments. The cottage wasn't large or luxurious like the house she'd shared with Dylan, but it was entirely hers, decorated in colors and styles that reflected her personality rather than compromises made to accommodate someone else's tastes. Christine kicked off her shoes and padded into the kitchen, where she poured herself a glass of wine and carried it out to the small back porch. The evening was mild, the garden she'd planted in the spring now lush with flowers and herbs. She settled into the comfortable porch swing, allowing the gentle motion to soothe her as she sipped her wine and reflected on the day's unexpected visitor. Seeing Brittany again had stirred old memories, but not in the painful way Christine might have expected. Instead, the encounter had reinforced how far she had come since discovering Dylan's betrayal, how much stronger, more confident, and more genuinely herself she had become. The Shampoo revenge, as April had dubbed it, hadn't just been about punishing Brittany for her role in the affair. It had been Christine's first step toward reclaiming her power, toward refusing to be the unwitting fool in her own home. The plan had been calculating, perhaps even cruel, but it had also been necessary, a catalyst for the transformation that followed. Christine took another sip of wine, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of pink and gold. She thought about the Christine of a year ago, devastated, humiliated, uncertain of her future. That woman could never have imagined sitting here now, successful business owner, financially independent, at peace with her past and excited about her future. The cottage phone rang, interrupting her reverie. Few people had that number, mostly family and close friends. Christine set down her wine glass and went inside to answer it. "Christine? It's James. James Sullivan, from the community college." The voice on the other end belonged to the culinary arts program director, who had reached out to her last month. "James, hello. How are you?" "Wonderful, thanks. I'm calling because I've had a chance to review the teaching proposal you sent over, and I'd like to offer you the position. 1 evening class per week, Introduction to Professional Baking, starting next semester. What do you think?" Christine felt a thrill of excitement. Teaching had never been part of her original plan, but when James had approached her after tasting one of her cakes at a charity event, the idea had taken root. Sharing her knowledge and passion with others, helping them discover their own creative potential, seemed like a natural extension of her journey. "I think it sounds perfect," she replied, unable to keep the smile from her voice. "I'd be delighted to accept." After finishing the call and making arrangements to sign the contract next week, Christine returned to her porch swing, a sense of contentment washing over her. Another new beginning, another opportunity to grow. Her phone chimed with a text message from April. "Just heard from my friend at the courthouse. Guess who filed for bankruptcy today? Hint, he's bald and shares your former last name." Christine wasn't surprised. Dylan had never been good with money, and without her managing their finances, it was only a matter of time before his spending habits caught up with him. According to April's occasional reports, he'd gone through 3 jobs since the divorce, each ending when his charm wore thin and his mediocre work ethic became apparent. She typed back a simple response. "That's unfortunate. Hope he lands on his feet eventually." And she meant it. Christine no longer wished Dylan ill, though she certainly didn't wish him particularly well either. He simply occupied less and less space in her thoughts as time passed, becoming a chapter in her life rather than a defining aspect of her identity. The swing creaked gently as Christine leaned back, gazing up at the first stars appearing in the twilight sky. She thought about the woman Brittany had described seeing with Dylan, the latest in what was likely a string of relationships following the same pattern. She felt a moment of sympathy for that unknown redhead, who had no idea she was stepping into a role that had been played before. But that was no longer Christine's concern. Her life now moved to a different rhythm, one set by the early morning mixing of batters, the precise timing of ovens, the creative challenge of designing cakes that were both beautiful and delicious. By evenings spent reading or gardening or having dinner with friends who valued her for herself, not for what she could provide. As darkness settled fully over her garden, Christine gathered her empty wine glass and headed inside. Tomorrow would be another busy day at Sweet Beginnings. 3 custom cake orders to complete, a catering job for a local business lunch, and a meeting with the bank about financing her expansion. She moved through her evening routine with practiced ease, washing her face, brushing her teeth, changing into comfortable pajamas. As she climbed into bed, She noticed the framed motto she'd hung on the wall when she first moved in, words that had become something of a personal mantra. The best revenge is living well. Christine smiled as she turned out the light. If that was true, and she believed it was, then her revenge was complete and ongoing, sweeter than any cake she could bake, more satisfying than any momentary triumph. In the darkness of her bedroom, in the home she had created for herself, Christine Cartwright closed her eyes and fell asleep, with the peaceful certainty that the life she was building day by day was exactly the one she was meant to live, not despite the betrayal that had once shattered her world, but because of how she had chosen to rise from those broken pieces, creating something new and wholly her own. And as for the expensive shampoo that had started it all, Christine had switched brands entirely. Her new favorite cost a quarter of the price and worked just as well. Some luxuries, she had discovered, weren't worth their cost, but others, like independence, self-respect, and the courage to begin again, those were priceless. If you enjoyed the story, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And drop a comment below. What city are you watching from? And if your heart tells you to, feel free to leave me a tip on Buy Me a Coffee. Just check the first pinned comment. Thanks for keeping me company and for the coffee, and I'll see you in the next story.